Isn't it fascinating that when we think of high-performing athletes like Lewis Hamilton with F1 driving, he's practicing and driving every day for that Grand Prix day, or a sprinter who's running all year round in training for that big occasion like the Olympics, or a footballer who's training all day, every single day of the year for these game days. But when we think about work, why are we not practicing these hard conversations? Right? We can't just expect to be able to roll up and be great at having hard conversations if we haven't practiced them. So that's one thing that I'd encourage teams to get better at. Finding safe space people that you can have conversation with to practice the conversation before confronting the actual conversation from a place of compassion and empathy.
I think that's actually a really, really good point. Because one thing I often see in teams is people not knowing how to have these conversations. And either you go from not having them at all, and therefore things aren't being sorted out, things aren't being resolved. And a lot of it comes out sometimes maybe in passive aggression and in other ways. Or the one thing I see often as well is if people haven't prepared to have these conversations, then when they do have them, you're not approaching it in the right way. So it can come across, and I don't mean necessarily aggressive, but it can come across in a way where we're saying things like, you always talk over me in meetings, you always do X, Y, and Z, rather than thinking, how can we practice it and approach it in a way where we almost have a format? And I'm not saying that has to be really structured, but it's a way of saying, right, on this one occasion, this happened, this made me feel like this, and really making it about the situation and the feelings and the understanding and trying to provoke that empathy rather than trying to provoke someone into being very defensive. So I think it's really important that we are practicing this because it's actually quite a hard skill to learn.
I love that because it's not as much about how we're thinking, it's actually about how it's making us feel, right? So I love grounding it in actually the impact of that conversation has made me feel a certain way, which really separates it from just a logic versus logic kind of argument or discussion. So I really love that.
Exactly. It helps people reflect and show empathy back to you because you're explaining it to them and explaining how it makes you feel.